Hi everybody, Russ Vaughan here. Hey, I am in eastern Washington, just barely into eastern Washington, actually in the Methow Valley near Winthrop, Washington, just about to head into the Sun Mountain Lodge. Nice Patterson Lake down behind me here. It's beautiful, beautiful landscape here. I'll be speaking to the Washington Tree Farmers Association annual meeting tomorrow as their lunch keynote speaker. I'm honored to do so and grateful they asked me to do that. It'll be a bunch of great people that have probably been managing forests in the state of Washington for many generations, and it's really exciting to talk to them about the prospects of mass timber and a lot of the stuff that we've been doing in collaboration. One thing I noticed on the way down the pass, because I was actually in western Washington, drove over the North Cascades. If you haven't done it, it should be a bucket list item. It's an incredible drive. I've done it a few times. It's only open in the summer. Absolutely beautiful. But as you get to the west side, or excuse me, the east side from the west side, you start to get into the dry forest type, the fire adapted landscape. And I noticed something obvious as somebody that's in this space, and that is there's these beautiful ponderosa pines, and there's one in particular. As you come down the pass, you really notice it's this big ponderosa pine that's been there probably well over 100 years, possibly longer. And it's surrounded by all these Douglas fir trees, these smaller Douglas fir trees that are essentially gasoline. If you've ever seen a Douglas fir brow be burned, it's like turpentine. It just explodes. So it just strikes me that they don't have a market or the fortitude or the understanding to take those trees out. The big ponderosa pine trees need those Doug fir trees removed in order to survive. And so that's something that struck me as I came over the pass. So anyway, I'll show you guys a little bit about the Sun Mountain Lodge here, and capture some of my talk tomorrow and share it with you as we go. So look forward to that. Show you guys what it's like here at the Sun Mountain Lodge, really lodge feel. But you can see here, nice rooms as I get the lighting right. And then the view.
By developing a 20-year forest health plan and really taking on this sector of wildfire. So Hillary is going to give us a sort of I call it the all-embracing view.
It's great to be here this morning. I gotta say, you guys are the first keynote I've ever done at 8 a.m. I mean, most people start at 9 a.m. So I'm like, you guys probably gotten up already, gotten out on the land, treated it. Now you're just ready for the afternoon warm-up. You guys are early getting going. You know, yesterday, I have been in town actually. Yesterday was an amazing day with the flooding across eastern Washington that we've seen in the past couple of weeks right here in Okanogan County. I'm glad you all can make it here safely. I think it's an important time to be here because when I think about Okanogan County and how beautiful this place is, I mean, from the wildfires that are gracing the hills, the beautiful forests, to the waterways, I also know that this community is one that faces significant challenges amongst that beauty. I think of it oftentimes in the context of wildfire and forest health. I didn't think about it in the context of flooding. This is a flood they haven't seen in their community since 1972. That's just become the reality for this community, frankly, for this region, and for our state of really moving from one challenging crisis to another. I will say I'm honored and blessed to represent and serve with over 1,500 people at DNR. It was a great opportunity of getting our firefighters, along with local government, local fire districts, community members, out on the ground to help reduce that flooding, which we know as soon as they finish packing those bags and taking care of the waters, the fires will come. And now at least they've been working closer together, more collaboratively, as one team. And I realize we can talk about getting kids outdoors. We can say we got to do more, right? But really, that's not going to be enough. If we're going to raise the next natural resource stewards, the ones that are going to invest and make this a part of their livelihood, which is what I see as our biggest challenge, not only to the threats we have on wildfire and forest health, but who's going to be raising the food that we need to eat? Who's going to be producing the wood that we need to grow and that houses us and helps our economy? We've got to be creating education programs ideally K through 12, and then our community colleges and our technical colleges. And we've got to start that pipeline because it used to be there and it's been gone, right? So I am taking this on. This is a part, we just went and started a first program out of the Klamath School District where we're training 25 kids in middle and high school to actually be able to do their 36 acres of forest that belongs to the school district that nobody was managing, that was not producing well at all because it wasn't being cared for. They're now learning, they're on the ground, and they're gonna be actually being able, right? Now I have school districts across the state saying, wait, we wanna help do that same program. So we're in conversation with technical colleges and community colleges about how do we actually build that next pipeline and getting them to stop channeling everybody into software technology. We understand that's important. We need those people because I just throw my computer across the room if it doesn't work. But we know they're not going to feed us. They're not going to, right? And we've got to make sure we're not losing this critical skill. And so I look forward to working with you guys because I think it's huge.
You are here in the dry forest zone. We now really pretty fully understand dry forest ecology. Derek's excellent presentation about ways to respond, things about how it affects the forest, survival, stocking density, fuel loading, all of these terminologies that not many years ago were pretty foreign to most of us. And part of the reason to be here is to get it all up on the radar screen to talk about this. And somebody even said this already today. It's not if you're going to get a fire, it's when. But I work in the DNR's Forest Stewardship Program. So these are the things you've got to look through. Are you going to salvage log? What about erosion? What about replanting? What about weeds? Can I salvage log it? Can I go get those trees? Look, they're dead. We got to get in there and get them. And that comes up, and there's some elements to that. And many, many times people do salvage log, which can be, very effective thing to do. However, your timeline is really short. How many months you get? About 8? Doug fir, maybe a year. Correct me if I got this wrong. Ponderosa pine, you get about 6 months. Now think about that. All of a sudden, there's all these people with dead trees, and you're going to try to find a logger to go get them to get to a mill that you hope is not full. What happened in these big fires was the mills were full, the contractors were completely occupied, and people actually couldn't sell their trees. Doug fir, yeah, you could. So it was almost off the table. It was hard to find a place to take this wood. You couldn't
We
sell
have the great fortune of having Russ Vaughan on hand today.
And in 1952, my grandfather and my great uncle started Vaughan Brothers Lumber just outside of Caldwell, Washington. 16 years ago, we started the Northeast Washington Forestry Coalition. And it was born because we knew that it wasn't going the way it should be going. We knew that we were doing good things out in the forest. And if we just maybe talked to some of these environmentalists, maybe we would get someplace. And people go, that's not going to work. Well, it's working. And it's working now in a big way. The privilege of being at the Mass Timber Conference in March, and the Chief of the Forest Service, and I've heard a few speeches from Chiefs of the Forest Service. Not one of them's ever said the Caldwell National Forest. Vicki Christensen not only mentioned the Caldwell National Forest, she mentioned it 3 times, and it was the only national forest she mentioned. And the reason being is it's the forest that is picking up the cut for the entire region. And it's all because of the collaborative effort that we've done on the forest to get the social license to do the kind of work that we're doing. The other interesting thing is now people hear, okay, 100 million board feet, like, are they destroying that forest up there? Well, quite the contrary. The work that we're doing is all based on outcomes on the ground, not extracting product from the forest. Producing things that are value added where architects are designing our products to be spec'd into structures. Now all of a sudden we can start having a different conversation about forest management because it's reaching all the way into South Lake Union and Ballard and places where we're seeing a densification of our population. If you just Google Brock Commons, there's a YouTube video and it's a time lapse and it's really cool and they put all the stats that go into it. Some cool things that I think, 18 stories, 9.5 weeks, done. Ahead of schedule with a crew that's never installed it before. Pretty amazing stuff. It's what you can do when you pre-engineer a product to go into a structure. The connections are already cut into it. You're not you're assembling more than you are building, because a lot of that stuff is done in the factory. We can be the best utilization of our forest products and do it in a way that's in concert with the community. So I'm really excited about that.
Russ, isn't it true that that 18-story wood building is safer from fire than a steel building would be?
That is true.
Plan, I promise.
The interesting thing is that they had code issues there. Guess how many layers of drywall they had to put on that? 3 layers. It's crazy. But what I'd like to point out is some information that came from another project that's going into Portland. It's called the Framework Project. It's a 12-story mass timber facility, or mass timber building, mainly CLT. They did the fire testing, and they designed all the steel connections to go inside the wood, because the wood performs so dramatically better that it'll actually protect the steel connectors. Because we've all started fires. We're talking about prescribed fire. We'll take a match and go up to a big log and try to light it on fire. Because that's the equivalent of lighting mass timber on fire. So I think with that, we'll wrap up. So thank you everybody for having me.